Now you have to understand the setting here. All right, this was shortly after I got into service. I had gone to basic training. They sent me after basic training. They sent me to advanced infantry training in Fort Gordon, Georgia, which is the armpit of the nation. That they assigned me to the Signal Corps. We did the entire installation of telephone systems from ground up, digging the holes, installing the poles, running the cable, hooking up switchboards, hooking up the whole field installations of a live telephone system. It was incredible. There was only one drawback. You had to learn how to climb a pole. Now, I was born in the Bronx. The only poles we saw came from Europe. I didn't know a pole from a Hungarian. They have all these trees without any arms or legs or hats or leaves or anything. Just naked things sticking up. And since you were training in a closed area, the training area where you went to train on these poles was called a pole orchard. True. This was because there were about 500 poles sticking up out of the ground in this one confined area. It looked like the Jolly Green Giant's hairbrushes. It was incredible. All right, so you have to go to these poles. They give you these. I'm looking for the steps, the metal steps on the side so you can climb up these poles. I figured, well, they'll teach us how to climb the poles. We'll get up and we'll put it. No. They have these little devices that you put on your legs. They're called gaffs. What it is it's a strap that goes around your legs, and there's this metal band or a bar that goes down the side with a little tiny point in it. Now, I emphasize little tiny. That's the key word here. You want to remember little tiny. Because there's not this big 4-inch spike sticking out. There's a little tiny point. Did you ever see these things that you use to hold panes of glass in? These little push points? Well, visualize that just a little bit bigger. All right? Strapped to your leg. On each leg. You're supposed to take these points and just barely place them into the sides of the pole as you go up. The premise or the philosophy is that if you had a real sharp one, a long one, you would really tend to push it in hard. And the harder you push it in, the harder it is to take it out. And you don't want to be trying to pull this thing out going up a pole. All right. So you have to remember that. Keep this in the back of your mind. Little point, okay. This is a 45-foot pole. 45 feet. This is important you remember the height. All right. I did surprisingly well. I really did. I did quite well. I went up and down and all of that, and I serviced and worked, and it was terrific. This was to learn how to string telephone line. Now, I did very well. I got about an 85-90 in the course. And they said those people who got in the top percentage of the class could take an elective. You could volunteer. You passed, you're okay, you're a pole lineman, it's terrific. But since most of the utility companies in the country use 90-foot poles, if you wanted, you could go on to the next phase. They would train you and certify you so you'd have it in your record that when you got out, you were qualified for a 90-foot pole. If you wanted to make a career out of this, your training was behind you. But it was only to people who were in the top class because these people were qualified. So I said, 45, 90, what's a couple of more feet? No big deal, I could do that. Now, the pole itself, the 45-foot pole, it's fat on the bottom and skinny at the top. Trees are like that. I didn't know that, but because I'm from the Bronx. But okay. Now 45, 90, you have to understand that these proportions, they double on a 90-foot pole. Okay? At the bottom of a 90-foot pole, it's a sequoia. All right? You could picnic in the base. All right? At the top, it's a pencil. And it's very, very high. A 45-foot pole, they move a little at the top. A 90-foot pole, it's a hurricane. All right? Now, I went up the 90 because it was a piece of cake. La-da-da! I could do this. 1, 2, 4. It's really terrific. I did very well. Got to the top, and I looked down, and that was the end. There were these little tiny people at the bottom of this pole. Little tiny people. I took my gas, and I drove them into the pole. 4 feet on each side. I ripped bark. This is absolutely true. The belt around the pole, I pulled it in at its tightest point, and I married the pole. Very top of the pole, and I hung on, and I had made up my mind that I was going to spend the rest of my military career on this pole. They'd send the checks up, whatever. There was no way I was coming off this pole. Apparently the people on the bottom sensed that I was in some distress because there was some milling going on down there. I saw a lot of people. There was a lot of this. There was milling. More people came. Some people left. There was more of this. They came. They got bigger. They were more. They started to grow. People came from surrounding areas, from other states. And it was filling up at the bottom. Now you gotta understand, there was this anthill building up at the bottom of my pole. All of these brown people in brown clothes were all filling up. Apparently one of the instructors decided in his infinite wisdom that he was going to solve the problem and take action. So he started to come up the pole. He was going to walk me down. Now you got to understand, I'm a basic kind of guy. There isn't room at the top of this pole for me. And this moron's going to come up and help me get down. Thank God I had some tools with me because I was throwing him at the guy coming down. He went back down the pole. Now you have to understand, I made no effort. I didn't even consider a plan. There was no, I should do something. No, I shouldn't. This is fine. I'll stay right here. I had no alternate plan, no escape or nothing. I figured that was their problem. They got me up here. They're going to have to get me down. Okay. It's getting late. It's getting dark. I'm up here a long time. 2 or 3 days. I don't know. It's a couple of hours at least. And people are really starting to collect at the bottom. And way, way off in the distance, I hear and it's getting louder. And I look off. I was not far away from an Air Force base. And what they had done is they had engaged a Sikorsky sky crane. A sky crane. This is a helicopter they use in the Redwood Mountains to move timber. They take 20, 30 logs and a locomotive and occasional city and they move it over. This crane comes over. It was a helicopter with hooks and this thing pulls over right almost by my face and puts it in park. He pulls the helicopter, and there's this guy with the fly he was in with and microphones and goggles and an outside speaker, and he puts it in park. The earth was revolving underneath him because the helicopter didn't move. And I hear, attention, the trooper on the pole. Me? You mean me? This really happened. I can't believe it. And he's giving me instructions on how I should prepare for a rescue off this pole from a helicopter the size of New York. I figured he was going to run out a conveyor belt, stand there, unhook me, and carry me back. He's telling me that they're going to lower out, or they're going to bend out a rescue arm with a cable and a girdle, and I should attach it, and on a given signal, I should let go of my belt and release myself. After a lot of negotiations and I was freezing from that thing. It was very windy. They finally talked me into it. So I hit, they have the noises. This is a loud machine. The 1,000 horsepower Allison diesel machine. A lot of this is I'm from the Bronx. I'd had no experience with this. And now I hear this arm and I hear ding, ding, click, click, bang. All of these things are moving. Mechanisms are going into place. And a cable, and it's over my head. This thing comes out over my head, and this cable comes down. Do you ever see them pick up one of the pilots? Well, it's the same. Its arm comes out, and a cable with a strap. And I put it around me, and we make a number, and they say release, and I release, and they pull me up, and it's like pulling a tooth, and they pulled me out of the pole. Now, I was convinced that the decent thing for them to have done at that point was to take me into the helicopter, bring me to the Air Force Base, see to my needs, and then I would rejoin my unit. No, that's not what they did. They lowered me to the ground. I'm coming down after this 90 feet. They're lowering me to the ground, into the middle of the anthill. Okay? The red truck is still there with with stretchers. My NCO, the platoon sergeant, they're all there. Who's taking bets? And they're pointing, and I rejoin my unit, and that's the end of the post story, and that actually happened. That's really a true story. Thank you very much. No applause, please. You're welcome.